The area around Fenchurch Street is one of the oldest inhabited parts of London. The name Fenchurch derives from the Latin faenum, hay, and refers to the hay markets in the area. The station was first to be granted permission by the Corporation of London to be constructed inside the City of London, following several refusals against the other railway companies. The original building, designed by William Tite, opened on the 20th of July 1841, served the London and Blackwall Railway, replacing a nearby terminus at Minories, which had opened in July of 1840. It had two platforms connected via a stairway to the booking hall. Steam locomotives did not use the station until 1849, because before this time trains were dragged uphill from Blackwall to Minories and ran to Fenchurch Street via their own momentum. The reverse journey eastwards required a manual push from railway staff. William Marshall's railway bookstall, established at the station in 1841, was first to be opened in the City of London. Following the opening of the London Blackwall Extension Railway on the 2nd of April 1849, services operated from Fenchurch Street to Bow and Bromley. Some services were extended to Victoria Park and Bow, where an interchange existed with the Eastern Counties Railway from Bishopsgate. On the 26th of September 1850, the East and West Indian Docks and Birmingham Junction Railway, renamed the North London Railway, thank God, on the 1st of January 1853, started operating a service from Bow into Fenchurch Street, and the LBR withdrew its service, closing the line between Gas Factory Junction and Bow and Bromley. The station had two heavily used platforms and a double-track line from Stepney onwards. Following the reduced income at Blackwall, the South Eastern Railway had opened a direct line from Gravesend to London. LBR shareholders voted to align with the ECR and jointly construct the London, Tilbury and Southend Railway from Tilbury to Forestgate Junction near Maryland Point. Services would split at Stratford, one service to Bishopsgate and the other to Fenchurch Street, along with the reopened line via Bow and Bromley, although the station did not reopen. To accommodate this service, a third line was built between Stepney and Fenchurch Street, which was enlarged at the time. The new service commenced on the 13th of April 1854 using ECR locomotives and stock. To accommodate the changes on the line, the station was enlarged to the designs of George Berkeley, incorporating the 32-metre by 91-metre truss arch vaulted roof. Two platforms were added at the same time as a circulating area for London and Blackwall Railway and the London, Tilbury and Southend Railway traffic. The LNR wanted its own London terminus instead of co-sharing Fenchurch Street, extended its line towards the new Broad Street station in 1865. The railway through Stratford was unable to cope with the extra services, so the LTSR planned to build a more direct line from Barking to Gas Factory Junction. The third track from Stepney to Fenchurch Street opened in 1856, followed by a direct line from Barking in 1858. London, Tilbury and Southend Railway services were diverted from Stratford, and the spur was opened at Abbey Mills Junction east of Bromley, which allowed services to and from North Woolwich to operate directly into Fenchurch Street instead of via Stratford. By the 1860s, East railways in East Anglia were in financial difficulties, and most of the lines were leased to the ECR. Although the companies wished to amalgamate, they could not attain government consent until 1862, when the Great Eastern Railway was formed. In common with most railways, signalling was fairly basic and trains were separated by time interval. As traffic levels increased, there was a need to improve signalling, and in 1869 the GER announced absolute block workings between Fenchurch Street, Gas Factory Junction and Bow Junction, opening signal boxes at all locations. In the 1870s, the flat awning over the station's main entrance was replaced with a current zigzag canopy. The station's track layout was rearranged in 1883 with platform extensions, a fifth platform for use by the Blackwall services and the new gantry signal box, which lasted until the 1935 remodelling. The Great Eastern Railway used the station as an alternative to Liverpool Street Station during the late 19th and early 20th centuries for the former ECR routes. The GER took over operation of the NLR shuttle from Bow in 1869, which it operated until April of 1892, when the second Bow Road railway station opened with a passenger football short connection to the NLR station. Subsequent services to Fenchurch Street were operated by the GER and the LTSR, and 3 years later the viaduct from Stepney to Fenchurch Street was widened to accommodate a fourth track. Despite this, overcrowding of LTSR services was still occurring and persisted until 1902, when the opening of the Whitechapel and Bow Railway offered an alternative route. In 1903, the GER built the Fairlop Loop, a short connected line between Ilford and Woodford, from where services ran to Liverpool Street and around 36 trains a day into Fenchurch Street. In 1912, the Midland Railway bought and took over operation of the LTSR services. After the Railways Act of 1921, the country's railways were grouped into 4 companies, with effect from the 1st of January 1923. At Fenchurch Street, the London Midland and Scottish Railway took over operations of the MR, whilst GER services were taken over by the London North Eastern Railway. Direct services to galleons were usually routed via Bromley at off-peak hours, and a peak shuttle service operated from Custom House to galleons. Passengers for the North Greenwich branch changed at Millwall Junction. The Blackwall and North Greenwich passenger services were scheduled for close on the 30th of June 1926, but the general strike brought that forward to the 3rd of May. The station was rebuilt in 1935 to address overcrowding and provide better accommodation for the Southend line services. While the former ECR lines traversed to the Underground Central line in 1948, the station was later served solely by former LTSR services. Following nationalisation of Britain's railways in 1948, the station transferred under British Railways to the Eastern region, although the old LTSR network west of Gasworks Junction was controlled by the London Midland region. On the 20th of February 1941, the whole LTS line was transferred to the Eastern region, yet despite the organisational changes, the old LTSR still was a distinctive system operated by former LTS and LMS locomotives until electrification. British Railways electrified the former LTSR line in 1959, electric services beginning on the 6th of November 1961, and a full electric timetable introduced on the 18th of June the following year. In the 1980s, the station route was dismantled and high-rise office blocks were built above the station, leaving the 1854 facade intact. Fenchurch Street suffered a negative reputation under public ownership. By the late end of the 1980s, the former LTSR line was carrying over 50,000 passengers a day on a 50-year-old infrastructure. The persistent overcrowding and uncleanliness of trains led to it being dubbed the Misery Line. In 1989, Sir Robert Reid called the service from Fenchurch Street wholly unacceptable, while Theresa Gorman, Member of Parliament for Billericay, subsequently called it one of the disgraces of our public railway services for many years. Between 1982 and 1992, the station was operated by Network South East, one of British Rail's free sectors for passengers, before being handed over to the business unit for preparation of privatisation. In July of 1994, shortly before rail privatisation, the station closed for 7 weeks at an £83 million project to replace signals, track and electrification works. It was the first significant closure of a London terminal station, albeit planned and temporary. The development of the Lakeside Shopping Centre near Chafford Hundred and Thurrock increased demand for services from the station. In 2013, Network Rail announced a £3.4 million upgrade, creating a third exit onto Cooper's Row and to make connections with Tower Hill easier. And in 2019, a planning application was submitted to the City of London Planning Authority for permission to revamp the station building. So, to get us started here at London Fenchurch Street, we see the arrival of 357035, 357001 and 357008, terminating with a C2C service from Shoebury Ness. Arriving to terminate with a C2C service off of Southend Central is 357034 and 357014. next train now to depart is 357 320 and 357 207 with the 0802 C2C service to Grays. Arriving to terminate with a C2C service off of London is 357032 and 357030. Departed on the far side, we see the departure of 357 324 and 357 027 with the 0805 C2C service to Southend Central. And quickly following on his heels under head code 5 Echo 70 to East Ham EMU Depot is 357 008, 357 001 and 357 035. Snaking over the crossing to terminate with a C2C service from Grays is 357 319 and 357 314. Whilst departing in the opposite direction is 357014 and 357034 with the 0811 C2C service to Pitsea. Arriving to terminate with a C2C service off of Shoebury Ness is 357 009, 357 209 and 357 011. Whilst departing in the opposite direction is 357032 and 357030 with the 0814 C2C service to Shoebury Ness. Arriving to terminate with a C2C service off of Southend Central is 357012 and 357040. Arriving to terminate with a C2C service off Fort Bay is 357038, 357210 and 357208. Whilst going in the opposite direction is 357314 and 357319 with the 0820 C2C service to Shoebury Ness. Whilst departing behind that under the Echo 5 Echo 2 to East Ham EMD depot is 357011, 357209 and 357009. Arriving to terminate with a C2C service off of Grays is 357002 and 357029. And the final departure of the session is 357208, 357210 and 357038 with the 0829 C2C service to Shoebury Ness. Whilst arriving to terminate with a C2C service off Fort Bay is 357313, 357315 and 357028. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed what you saw, click on the 2 videos here at the end screen. Helps out the channel. Also, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you are new and got this far. And we'll see you all in the next video, folks, wherever that may take us. We'll see you then, folks.